Good evening once again, everybody, to a live GamingAlimonda broadcast of the PSGL F1 division, and we are here for round 4 of this season for the Austrian Grand Prix from the Red Bull Ring, and certainly a track and race I'm very much looking forward to tonight. So welcome to those who have joined the chat. Quick look, Ashbest, Louis, who incidentally will not be commentating with me tonight, but I hope you enjoy the race, and JPTV, and onto the podium, welcome to you as well, and I hope everybody watching is going to be touching as much wood as possible, so we can avoid the kind of network issues we've had with PSN over the last couple of days. So for once we can't blame Codemasters for our connection problems, but F1 will hopefully go without any sort of issue tonight. Just checking some settings here. And then I will go through the tables as per usual. I have had some issues with my mic recently, which I hope are fixed, so if one of you could just let me know you can hear me, that would be fantastic. So we are here at the Red Bull Ring, a 4.3 kilometer circuit with 9 corners, one of the shortest tracks on the calendar, and as you can see, the available tyre choices slightly differ from Brazil from last week. We have the return of the ultra soft tyres, and then we have super soft. There's a small chance we may see some rain. Not often we see that at this particular track, but the intermediate and full wet compounds are indeed available. Now, with this being one of the shortest tracks on the calendar, the pole time is going to be one of the fastest of the season. I'm expecting to see a time somewhere in the 1 minute 5s, the mid 1 minute 5s. Someone may possibly go right into the low 5s, but there would have to be a near perfect lap for that to happen. But this could be, like Brazil, a very intensely fought qualifying session. So let's go through the championship standings. As we saw last week, XJackLacey finished second and probably should have won the race if he hadn't picked up a needless penalty in the pit lane. So he has a current 4-point lead to Cliffy. So XJackLacey's on 34 points, Cliffy's on 30, Big C is on 23 points, and Ashbest on 22, who failed to finish last week, having won in Malaysia in round 2, and AMS makes up the top 5, with Jamie just behind him in 6th place on 70 points, with some work to do after his retirement also last week at Brazil. And in the Constructors' Championship, Ferrari had a significant advantage of the first 2 rounds, but that advantage has virtually been wiped out. They only have a 1-point lead to Force India on 40 and 39 points respectively. Then Mercedes on 34 points, with McLaren and Red Bull both sharing 22 points each in 4th and 5th position. And Williams, incidentally, still looking for their very first points of the season, having failed to score in the first 3 races. So hopefully everyone watching will be cheering on Williams to break their proverbial duck at this evening's race, which will be 36 laps after the usual 12-minute qualifying session. And well, looking at the calendar in terms of real life, it's only just over 2 months until the real F1 2018 season begins. So some of the teams already announcing their launch schedules. Always something to look forward to. I wonder who will steal the show, aesthetically at least, in terms of the cars. I certainly thought it was Toro Rosso last season. So in terms of the F1 season so far, for those watching, let me know in the chat what your particular highlights of the first 3 races have been. Who's caught your eye, and who do you think needs to show a bit more, maybe not just in terms of pace, but just in terms of getting a result. And as some of the people in the chat are commenting on, yes, the servers appear to be very, very good this evening, unlike last night where F3 and F4 unfortunately couldn't run, and FP last week couldn't run either. So hopefully Sony have sorted out their stuff and are finally beginning to justify raising the price of the subscription, because at the moment it's, you know, £50 of a year now. Used to be quite a bit less than that. So in terms of last week, it was a very impressive podium for Little Blocks, and Cliffy with the victory. Slightly fortuitous, but he ran a clean race, so he did earn it. And xJackLacey was certainly kicking himself, but he can console himself with the fact that he is leading the championship. So we have a near full field. I don't believe there's any penalties to be served from last week. I'm trying to figure out who's missing. We seem to have 19 runners. So we're going to load this particular track. So having a quick look at the table, Remco, Paudie, JD7, HELLBOY and Josh all looking for their first points of the season. So look out for them. And we've seen good pace from MaxiLucaGT so far, but he got 4 points in Brazil. But I think there's more to come from him. He certainly has 1 lap pace on his side. But this particular Austria track, the Red Bull Ring, is certainly one of the ones I'd love to visit in real life. From some of my friends who have been, says it's a really spectacular place to watch Grand Prix racing. So that's certainly something on my list to go to. Although I'm likely going to be going to the Spanish Grand Prix again. So it looks like we've got a bright sunshine around the Red Bull Ring for this qualifying session. I'm going to try and find out what the weather is for the race as usual. I do miss Game Freaker's weather updates from last season when he was in F1. But he's in F2 now, of course, so that service has been cancelled, unfortunately. So it is me on my own commentating tonight, in case you didn't know. Louis absent tonight, so whatever he's doing, I hope it's all good and you enjoy the race. I'm sure it's more entertaining than being in the commentary box with me. So we see Remco pulling out of the pit lane in that shiny orange and black McLaren. Quite a few cars opting to come out straight away. I think that's the Sauber of Greeny behind him. He usually comes out pretty early. Yes, indeed it is. And there's a Haas on track as well. And that is Lordy Boy. So I'm always rubbish at this. Like when I'm trying to figure out someone's missing from the race tonight. It's Nick Pine. He did mention he could be absent tonight. So he's the only absentee. So virtually a full grid again. So that's very good stuff from the F1 division once again. And Simo in the chat makes a good point because of the short nature of the track. Yes, we could see some people attempt 3 runs. Some may just do 2 runs in a single stint anyway. Tyre wear can be pretty severe here. Nothing like F1 2016. If you got the setup wrong in F1 2016 at this particular track, sometimes you end up making 4 stops. That's how bad the tyre wear was. So, man, Remco flying over the curb straight away. So I think Greeny's going to abandon that run. Is Lordy Boy ahead of them? No. So where is Remco? So let's get the times up. So just a reminder, somewhere in the 1:05s, I think we'll see for the pole time. I think most of you agree. You've practiced this track, if you certainly were in F1. I think that is the sort of time we would expect. So let's go Born Remco, sweep through. Only 9 corners on this track. Some say it's 10 because there is, and running wide onto the gravel, and well, the tyres are shot. He'll certainly be going again. So let's have a look at Greeny, and 2 McLarens up ahead. They don't want to have a collision, and and I think Greeny, his run will be compromised slightly by that McLaren in the way. He'll be the first to cross the line with a flying lap. Let's see what he does. It's a 1:05.998. The Lordy Boy puts it into the 1:06s. A few slightly further back, just seeing if anyone else is closing in a lap. Josh is starting a lap. Is anyone else coming to the end of a lap? Most people on their first flying run. Oogie really fighting the car out of the final corner, and I think he's invalidated as a result, and AMS off the track. So it seems like a few of the drivers are running very low downforce setups and struggling a little bit. So Greeny setting the own pace, but here comes xJackLacey with a 105.837, so just over 1.5 tenths faster than Greeny. xJackLacey's been so impressive in these qualifying sessions this season, very consistent. If not pole position, he's been top 4. I mean, compared to last season, it's like he's a completely different driver. The champion from 2 seasons ago in this particular division, of course. xJackLacey can once again stick it into the top 4 and even get a front row slot, then the championship leader is going to be looking very good for this race. In terms of the strategy, I think we'll see quite a mixture. Just like Brazil, I think we'll see some try the long one stop if they're starting outside the top 10, and I think those starting the top 10 will probably be doing a 2-stop. But it's such a short pit lane here, it's one of the shortest on the calendar. It's around, averages out between 18 to 20 seconds. So really you don't lose too much time, and with the number of laps, if you have a big tyre advantage, you can certainly gain quite a bit of time back as long as you've got the laps to do it. So let's have a quick look. xJackLacey then in provisional pole position. Greeny, Skeevan, LawlyBoy, Big C, Cliffy, MaxiLuca, Josh, HELLBOY and Paudie make up the top 10. And we've got around 6 drivers who haven't yet to set a time. Big C, second run, puts him onto the front row. So he opted to do 2 runs and he's improved. So 1:05.993, just ahead of Greeny, Sauber. So we've got a Force India and a Ferrari on the front row at the moment. So let's have a look at Remco, who once again goes wide, and he's lost it. He's lost it at the final corner. Struggles for the former PSGL F1 champion. That would have been the start of another flying lap for him. But yeah, just saw it. Really struggling with the back end of the car. Just losing it there. The little box pulls back into the pits. Just over 6 minutes of the session left. We're at half distance here. And Oogie, surprisingly, was unable to set a flying lap on his first run. So a few of the drivers we'd expect to be in the top 10 struggling a little bit. So in terms of people on track, let's see. Ashbest then. Is this a style of flying app? Yes it is. So let's stick on board with him. Trying to get tight apex as he can. Yep. Doesn't take too much curb on the left hand side. He's got a car ahead of him, but hopefully he'll get out of the way as he runs up to turn 2. Some call it turn 3, but I'm going to call it turn 2 because it's easier. And that's a ghosting car. It's a Williams. Not sure what's going on there. Haven't had any connection issues in terms of someone dropping out, so maybe it's just gone AFK until he goes around the lap. So, Ashbest then, the Malaysian Grand Prix winner this season, of course. Had a disappointing Brazil race last week, just got caught up in some midfield accidents. Yeah, goes a bit wide. There's a 16.7 in sector 2. I think he would have lost some time running wide there. So let's see that. Brakes hard then for 8. And then doesn't want to take too much curb on 9, and then powers up to the line. Let's see where he ends up. It's only good enough for 11th place. So yes, I think when he went wide in sector 2, that cost him quite a bit of time. It's quite a tight grid as it was in Brazil last week. Less than a second separating the top 15. So it just shows how competitive the F1 division is. You know, you make the slightest mistake and you tumble down the grid, and it's not even that slow a time. Got to really nail it. So we've got just over 4 minutes of the session to go. And given how short the track is, a lot of people can leave it very late before they come out again. And I think some of the drivers have indeed been able to do at least 2 runs already in this time. But because of the small nature of the circuit, there's not a lot of space. So traffic could be an issue, especially if everyone rushes out for the final run at the end. So MaxiLuca at the moment in 8th position. just under 7/10 back from XJackLacey's provisional pole time. I think the likes of XJackLacey, Big C and Greeny can certainly improve from where they currently are in terms of time, but can anyone else break into that top 3? Likes of Cliffy, MaxiLuca, perhaps Jamie. Ash Best, he'll certainly think he can do better than what he did with that lap just then. And then we got Oogie, who's usually up there in qualifying, hasn't even set a time yet. And the man who finished 3rd place, Little Box. Just want to see what MaxiLuca does, and then I'm going to go over to XJackLacey, Big C and Greeny, who are coming out of the pits now. Is MaxiLuca going to peel off into the pits? Yes, he is. So he's on a flying lap. Here's Cliffy, the other Mercedes. Don't actually know what the weather is yet. I might have missed it in the chat. I do apologise if I did. So then, XJackLacey starting another flying lap. Let's see what he can do then. As he runs up the hill, this spectacular scenery of the forest just behind. But if you ever go to this race, it appears to be sort of in the middle of nowhere, so it's not that easy to get to. You'll certainly have to drive there or get a coach of some sort. It's not near any sort of station by the looks of it. And apparently it's going to be rain for the race, so that would explain why everyone's not really being careful with their tyres. They're just sort of putting in 2 runs. And HELLBOY, what's happened to HELLBOY? He's set a time and he's put himself 6th place, so he's decided he's had enough. But given the track evolutions, that may not be enough to keep him in 6th place. So let's see where XJackLacey ends up, flying through 8. It's such a satisfying feeling when you get that late braking right, you just fly through the corner. So XJackLacey, no, not that's slower than his previous time, but he's got another go, perhaps even 2 more goes. So let's have a look at some other people for now. Skeevan going around, just want to see if anyone's actually near the end of their lap. So I think we'll see some movement in the top 10. Aaron starts a lap, he's currently in 15th. JD starting a lap. Little Blocks is sort of eased off, so he's looking to do another lap. So AMS, is he on a flying lap? So AMS puts himself into 15th with that time. But it's less than a second between the top 16. So Big C was unable to improve with that latest time. So it's a track temperature going down because no one seems to be improving. But Greeny does. Greeny improves by a 10th and leaps above Big C onto the front row, and he's done. So XJackLacey, will he go for another lap? No, he doesn't improve again. What about Lolly Boy's up to 7, Jamie up to 8, he peels off in the pits, he's done. So Cliffy will be in 4th position, he's finished. Ash Best still only in 11th position, he needs to find some time. And JD puts himself into 12th with that final improvement. Aaron stays 17th. XJackLacey is done. And Oogie, out of nowhere, has put it 105.753. What about Big C? No, he's done. So Oogie, who couldn't set a time the whole session, has seemingly snatched pole position right at the end, unless there's anyone else out there. What about Ash Best actually? Ash Best flying around the final corner. He's currently in 12th position. Where's this going to put him? Puts him only 9th position. Barely a second between the top 18. Is there anybody else out there setting a lap? No, I do believe that is it. Wait, what about MaxiLuca? He appears to be... he's on a flying lap. MaxiLuca puts it into the top 10. So, a lot of people, if it is a wet race, probably on the wet setup. So that's going to compromise their straight line speed. But a great lap by Oogie to take his first pole position of the season. Ahead of XJackLacey, Greeny, Big C and Skeevan in the top 5. So that was a blinding lap from Oogie right at the death. Less than a tenth of a second to XJackLacey. I don't think XJackLacey. So we got a Force India front row for the 36th lap. PSGL F1 Australian Grand Prix. Austrian rather. So there's our result. Look how close the individual times are. Tiny little improvements making the difference between being in the front row and all the way down in 10th. Oogie takes pole position then. XJackLacey in second. Force India locking out the front row for the first time this season. Greeny third for Sauber. Big C fourth. Skeevan fifth. Cliffy sixth. HELLBOY seventh. LawlyBoy eighth. MaxiLuca ninth. Ashbest 10th. Jamie down 11th, the reigning champion. Josh 12th. JD 13th. Joel 15th. And then the rest of the grid there. Irin and Little Blocks, the only person not to set a time. So a disappointing session for the driver who finished third in Brazil last week. He'll have a lot of work to do during the race. So I did say I was looking forward to qualifying, and it certainly didn't disappoint. So we're starting in the rain here. Let's see, it's intermediate conditions. Yes, it is. Intermediate conditions then for the race. At least to start with. Whether it dries out, we'll have to wait and find out. So feel free to leave your predictions for the top three in the chat. We are about to start 36 laps then of the Red Bull Ring. The two Force Indias on the front row. Will we see any shenanigans between them, or will they, the team, hopefully not like Perez and Ocon in real life, but lights out and away we go. Oh, great start. Great start from Oogie and Greeny, and a terrible start from XJackLacey. He's fallen down to third and he's under pressure from Skeevan's Toro Rosso, who moves up to third position. So an awful start from the championship leader, dropping from second to fourth. So Oogie leads, Greeny second. So XJackLacey then is going to attempt to try and gain a place back from Skeevan. Takes the inside. It's going to be a bit aggressive, and yes, he takes back third position. So that could be an important move for him. And Greeny now putting Oogie Azeem under pressure as we head into this slow right-hander. Oh, touches the back of the Force India slightly. He doesn't want to get wing damage. So Oogie holds position for now, and now XJackLacey, and a 5-second penalty stop and go for cutting a corner and gaining 2 places. So MaxiLuca's penalty woes continue. So Greeny stuck in a Force India sandwich at the moment. So XJackLacey trying to make up for that poor start, but fortunately for him, he sort of kept his head and regained third position from Skeevan. Now he's got one more position to get back on parity for where he started, and Big C has fallen down to 14th position. So a terrible start for the 7-time champion. And look in the background, we've got a battle between the Williams of HELLBOY and Remco. They go side by side through turn 1, and HELLBOY will have the insides. And there's a Ferrari, Jamie, right behind them. So can HELLBOY do better on the brakes? Let's see then. Oh, they're so close. And HELLBOY takes the position. Oh, does he? Remco gets slightly better traction. So they're going to continue to be side by side as they fly down towards turn 3. So HELLBOY puts it down. Oh, he goes deep. I think that will do the job. Will that allow Jamie to move further forward? No, it will not. So let's go back to the front then. Oogie Azeem leads by less than 2/10. And look at that, how close the top 5 are, ladies and gentlemen. So Greeny, he's close to Oogie, but XJackLacey behind is even closer, with Skeevan and Cliffy keeping a watching brief. Oh, and XJackLacey runs wide, and he's going to lose a place to Skeevan. And they're possibly going to be free. No, I was thought for a moment they were going to be free wide between Cliffy, Skeevan and XJackLacey, but XJackLacey recovers it again. And look at Cliffy, looking for a lunge down the inside. He cuts the curve slightly, So that means Skeevan not running on the tarmac, better grip, gets back in front. And look at Lordy Boy running in a brilliant 6th position at the moment. He's not normally this high up the order based on previous races, but a great stuff from him. And Skeevan and Cliffy touch ahead, so Cliffy takes 4th position. We just see it on board. And Oogie has lost it somewhere in front of these guys, and he's dropped from 1st to 3rd, so Greeny leaves the race with XJackLacey in 2nd, and Oogie, well, he must have made a mistake. Treacherous conditions out there for these drivers. So it's all happening. No one seems to be able to maintain a place for more than 2 corners before there's a change of position. So at the moment, Greeny leads. Don't want to go too wide on those curbs. There's no grip out there. Less than a second in top 2, and Oogie, well, must have made a big mistake somewhere, and now he's under a threat from Cliffy, the Mercedes driver who won last week's Brazilian Grand Prix. I think I'm just going to have a look at Jack. No, he's not that close. So then let's have a quick look at who's gained what. Big C, the biggest loser, lost 10 places at the start. And no one's made a pit stop, so no one's had wing damage. Some people just generally made some poor starts. So now, XJackLacey. Cliffy making a move on Oogie round the outside at turn 2, and he takes it with ease. Oogie hasn't got a lot of speed for whatever reason, and look ahead, 3 wide between the top 3, out of nowhere, and Cliffy has taken the lead. So Cliffy overtakes Oogie at turn 2, and by the end of turn 3 he's in the lead, and Greeny forces XJackLacey wide, and XJackLacey's damaged half his wing. This is unbelievable. The lead's changed hands several times in several corners, and yellow's in sector 2. So Cliffy can't believe his luck. And I think unfortunately there was contact between Greeny and XJackLacey just after Cliffy took the lead, and that has really damaged XJackLacey's right front wing. So he'll have to pit and lose quite a bit of time in the pit lane, or we might have to pit even sooner than that. Downforce is going to be even more compromised than it already would be if it was dry, but in the rain it's just an absolute disaster. So XJackLacey now under a threat from Skeevan, and I do apologise to the midfield because I usually like to have a look at those guys, but there's been so much going on at the front. But Cliffy, the Mercedes driver, won last week, 1.2 second advantage. It's the first time the leader of the race has had any sort of gap. And quietly going about his business, Josh has moved up to 5th in the other Sauber, and JD in 6th, and Oogie is dropping down the field like a fly. 8th position now. He was pole position man, just the rain's not going well for him. And XJackLacey has fallen to 4th position. That damaged ring compromised him. He might have to think about an early pit stop, and 3-second time penalty for XJackLacey. So, well, let's go over the top 10. Cliffy leads then, 1.7 second gap to Greeny. Skeevan in 3rd, XJackLacey 4th, Josh in 5th, JD in 6th, MaxiLuca up to 7th, Oogie dropping to 8th, HELLBOY in 9th. So Williams on for a double point score to finally get off 0, which they scored in the first 3 rounds, but long way to go of course. Jamie in the points, and we got Remco and Big C down in 12th and 13th. So I'm going to have a quick look at Cliffy, who's where are you going? But that little section where he passed Oogie and then suddenly took the lead and they were 3 wide, I don't think he could have believed in luck there. The Skeevan moves up to 3rd. We saw him have a good race in Malaysia, but then unfortunately had a needless contact in a race he could have won, to be honest. But he ended up finishing 4th, but now he's got a chance for a podium here. XJackLacey doing his best to keep that car on track, but it's going to be a real struggle until he gets that fixed. So he may have to bide his time. So let's look down the order then and see what's going on. some gaps developing between some of the drivers. Now, what about Little Blocks? He is right behind Big C. We have seen in the past that Big C doesn't always have the best running in conditions like this. Be interested to know what happened to him at start. He started 4th, of course. Joel peels off into pits. Let's see what Joel is doing. Joel pits for a new wing. So that's unfortunate for the Renault driver. He will drop right down the order. And oh, sadly, Lordy Boy, who was running really high, he's had to pit for a new wing as well by the looks of it. So he's dropped all the way to last. So that's a real shame for the Haas driver. He made a brilliant start. Just gonna have a, and yeah, Joel is indeed on the wet. So good call from Woko in the chat. I'm not sure it's really wet conditions, to be honest. The rain's not really falling that hard. I will keep an eye on Joel's progress in terms of the sector times to Paudie in front of him, who are fresh tyres, so if they are the right tyre he'll be going a lot quicker, but I don't know, it doesn't really look that heavy to me. Looks like there's quite a lot of standing water, but he had to replace his wing anyway, so maybe he's just making the earlier call now. So there goes, it's heavy rain conditions then. Wow, we will see some pit stops. Oh, and yeah, Joel has already been overtaken by Lordy Boy, so yeah, I'm not sure that this was the right choice at this stage. It just doesn't look wet enough to me. I just want to go back to Joel for a second just to see generally what his grip's like. He's having to brake very early for these corners, and I mean, look at the way Lordy Boy's just flying away from him. So yeah, I don't think that is the right call at this point. So it looks like there's a decent little scrap here for 11th position between Remco, Big C and Little Blocks, who finished 3rd last week. And oh, Little Blocks going for a dive down the inside of Big C. I think he was a bit too far away for that, to be honest. So Little Blocks has got in front of him 8 F1 PSGL championships worth of 2 drivers there. So that must be quite fun for him. So Remco under immense pressure from Big C. And is Big C going to go for a move down into turn 8? I think's better of it. So he's probably going to line it up for turn 9 and then try and make a move down into turn 1. Remco, to his credit, gets a decent exit. Big C did not, so he might be under pressure from Little Blocks behind. Big C has another look at Remco. So they're climbing up the hill towards turn 2. Big C getting in the slipstream of McLaren driver. Remco goes very defensive. Now Big C goes late on the brakes, locks the tyres as we see, and he forces down the roll. And that allows Little Blocks to take both of them. They touched, and that's the result. And look at Ash Best getting involved as well. So Little Blocks gains 2 places. That's what happens when you force someone off. You both go off, you have no grip. And Little Blocks takes advantage, and now Remco coming back at Big C, and there's been some contact. I saw, yeah, I think Remco's lost. Yeah, he's lost end place on his left wing, so more contact there. So Big C down to 14th, but he should have an easy job getting past Remco the next time. No love lost between those two, clearly. So the 2 McLarens freed up for the time being. But I think I'm going to stick on board with the battle between the McLaren and yeah, Remco peels off to get his wing fixed. So Big C doesn't have to deal with him at least for a while. Well, 7 seconds now the gap between Lordy Boy and Joel. It's not really raining hard enough. So let's go back to the front then. Cliffy with a 2.4 second advantage. It's looking very good at the moment for back-to-back victories after his win in Brazil last week. But we're only on lap 10. There is a long way to go in this Grand Prix. So XJackLacey will have to keep going until the first pit stop. You can see really fighting the car. That missing downforce that's making it so difficult in those slow corners to get out, to straighten up the car. So some of the gaps fairly similar, but they're not really that close. So little individual errors is what they'll need. Just looking through the order. So really the close spell on the track at the moment appears to be between Josh and MaxiLuca, and then behind them JD has been closing by Oogie, and HELLBOY is also very close to Oogie. So let's see then, what's the straight line speed on MaxiLuca like? As he slams on the brakes into turn 1. Bit of a twitch of the car, Josh ahead. So incidentally, in terms of the previous races here, not many times it's been held at this particular track in PSGL F1 history. This is only the 5th time, as MaxiLuca puts him under pressure, gets the switchback. Who's going to have the better traction here? And yeah, Remco and AMS go onto the wets as well. I have to say the rain does look like it's falling harder now. Is it falling hard enough for those wets to work? One thing I've noticed about the wets on this game, it needs a particularly sodden track for them to really come alive. MaxiLuca goes later on the brakes, has to go slightly wide, otherwise he would have slammed into the back of that Sauber. But Big C is a 2-time previous winner of this particular race in this division, and Remco won this race the last time it was run back in season 17. So those two have particular experience of winning this race. And now MaxiLuca closer than this time to Josh. Not quite close enough. Up ahead, XJackLacey. Still sort of keeping Skeevan honest. I think he'd be able to fight if he had that wing. Okay. So MaxiLuca gets closer. Can he go for a move down the inside into turn 2? Josh saw it coming, left in the space, and it's a well executed move by MaxiLuca to move up to 5th position. Let's see if Josh can come back at him with his splendid purple helmet. Remco picks up another penalty. So the 3 on wet tyres are definitely struggling somewhat. I'll have a look at them in a moment just to see what they are up to. Let's see then. Going to switch over to Remco. So AMS, Remco and Joel on the wet tyres. Joel we saw pit the wet tyres a few laps ago. But yeah, I don't... Let's see then. Remco... Oh, I mean, yeah, runs wide. There's no grip. No grip at all. But Lordy Boy struggling on the inters as well. And we have JD coming into the pits, brakes as late as he dares. So let's see where he goes on. Just out of interest. Will he stick to the inters? And he's gone for a set of wets as well. But it can't be that, the conditions can't be that bad for everyone, because if they were, everyone would be diving in for wets right now. And the fact is, Lordy Boy is a good measure of how good the wet tyres are performing. If they were performing better, the likes of AMS and Remco and Joel would be rapidly closing on Lordy Boy, but the fact is they're not. There's just not enough standing water to make these wet tyres work. JD has waited a bit longer, so it'll be interesting to see if Lordy Boy rapidly closes in on JD if the conditions are still not right. So Cliffy then leads by 2.4 seconds to Greeny. Quite a gap now between Greeny and Skeevan in 3rd position. XJackLacey is running, and he pits now. So let's see what XJackLacey goes for. I'm just going to see, because Jamie is closed right onto the back of Oogie, but let's switch back to XJackLacey just for a moment. I just want to see what tyres he goes on. He's opted for another set of vintage tyres. Jamie then has a look at Oogie, the pole position man. Had a really good start, Oogie, like it was perfect, but then unfortunately he just made a mistake, and he's made several mistakes since. Car just not quite working for him to keep that pole position, make it stick and keep the lead of the race. But he's still in a decent 6th place at the moment, and who knows, he may get back into contention later on. Jamie closing in on the back, and I've heard from Wacko that possibly XJackLacey's wing was not changed. He might have left it on auto. I'm just going to stick with this battle for a few moments, and then I will check on XJackLacey, because if that wing hasn't been changed, then XJackLacey, well, the chance of him finishing in the points will be drastically reduced. Lap 15 then of this PSGL F1 Austrian Grand Prix. Oh, and look at that. That was a brilliant camera angle, but Jamie's back end was squirming all over the place, but he kept it nailed to the floor, the accelerator. And HELLBOY now pits. And HELLBOY's pitted for the wets, so some people think it's wet, some people don't. So, oh, and Jamie, lay on the brakes. He's just chipped off part of his end plate. So maybe the grip on the inters is going, but these are older tyres, of course, 15 laps old, so it may not be just because of the conditions. So over a quarter of the field now on the wet tyres, so we'll really see the difference now. The timing screen's really useful to keep an eye on that. Lordy Boy pits, interestingly, and he's gone onto the wets as well, so more and more drivers coming in for the wet tyres. So JD 7.2 seconds behind Iran, who's on old tyres, so he's the barometer. 11th place Iran, so if JD starts rapidly closing, then perhaps it's finally time for the wet tyres. But I do fear that Jamie's chase of Oogie's probably came to an end with slamming into the back of Oogie's Force Indian chipping on past wing. Cliffy pits then from the lead, and he goes onto the wets. There is a lot of rain and a lot of standing water out there now, so Cliffy comes out. Skeevan also pits for the wets. So it's going to be so interesting now to see, have the people on the wet tyres got it right. JD is close to 6.5 seconds to Iran on the wet tyres. Perhaps the wet tyres are beginning to work, but we just don't know at this point. Cliffy was the race leader, so he will really show us if they are working, because he's certainly had good pace on the inters. And Remco picks up another time penalty. Cliffy, oh, he's closing, he's 2 seconds behind Jamie and Oogie, so he seems to be making them work. Skeevan closing onto the back of Ashbest. So perhaps these wet tyres are starting to work, and JD certainly closing to Iran, so some of the wet runners are getting some speed out of it. But don't forget, the likes of Oogie and Jamie, their inter tyres will be pretty shot at this point. 17 laps now, so it may not tell the whole story, but Cliffy certainly closing on these two. Everybody ahead of him haven't pitted yet. So yeah, all of the top 5 haven't pitted. Ashbest hasn't pitted either. Big C and Iran haven't pitted either. So we are going to see some very good action there. So the first of the inter versus wet battles here. Skeevan looking for a move round the outside of Ashbest. Goes late on the brakes. Who has the better traction? Oh, and slight tag from Ashbest, but nothing untoward. Skeevan moves up to 7th. Cliffy now, right onto the back of the reigning champions Ferrari. So will he dare go for a move around the outside? And it looks like he is. Who's got the better traction? And I think Cliffy is going to do it. Just needs to get the braking right for next 20, and he's done it. Up to 5th position. So a very well-timed move from Cliffy. Jamie's tyres have probably had enough, of course. He's got a damaged wing, which compromises him even more. Greeny pits then from the lead. MaxiLuca follows in as well. I suspect, are they all going on the wet? Oh, and yes, MaxiLuca, of course, he had a stop go, so that will compromise him. Greeny has gone for another set of inters. Interesting. And Cliffy runs wide at turn 1. I think Oogie may have been defending, that's probably what caused it. But Greeny has gone on to the inters, so that is a very interesting call from Greeny. So we're going to see directly between two of the fastest drivers in the race so far who's made the right call right here, right now. those who have joined recently, thanks very much. And I hope you've enjoyed the race. There's been a lot of great action so far. So Cliffy, he'll want to get this move done as quickly as he can on Oogie. He's got 18 old Inter tyres now, so it should be a fairly simple move if he can get the opportunity. Cliffy doesn't want to get too close behind the Force India, because if Oogie will have to brake later, earlier rather, because he just doesn't have the grip. Tags the back of the Force India a little bit. Oh, I'm not sure Cliffy needs to do this, because I'm sure Oogie's going to be pitting. Yeah, look, Oogie's already taking the inside line to pit. Around the outside goes Cliffy. Jamie carries on. So Greeny, let's see what he can do with these Inter tyres. XJackLacey gets another 3-second penalty, and that's a good point actually. I just want to check what his wing is like. XJackLacey, sorry, that's Oogie. Where is XJackLacey? Did he? Oh, XJackLacey loses it. Perfect timing. Well, if his wing wasn't fixed, it certainly needs fixing now. He's lost it out of there, so that probably ends XJackLacey's chances of winning the race. And now Skeevan is threatening. So I think Greeny has made the wrong call, because it looks like Skeevan has much more grip. Toro Rosso versus Sauber. Into turn 3. Oh, Greeny, he gambled. At this stage, though, I don't think it's paid off. He's going to have to defend for his life from Skeevan, who's clearly got the better grip, or is at least making these wet tyres work. Greeny getting slightly away. So he gets poor traction, and that's going to allow Skeevan to make a move. Yeah, thank you, camera. And Skeevan gets the move done. Can Greeny come back at him? It's a weird shot from the T-wing. Greeny, oh dear, well, unless it dries out, he could drop down the order as more wet runners get. Let's see what Jamie does, incidentally. And Jamie's gone for the Inters as well. So perhaps on the weather on their screens, perhaps it's the wet weather like this isn't going to last long, and they'll be in the box seat later on. Well, they'll hope so. Because if the heavy rain continues like this, then, well, they're going to be nowhere. So then, Cliffy with a massive 6.1 advantage now to Skeevan. Greeny in 3rd. MaxiLuca up to 4th. With Josh behind in 5th position. JD in 6th. HELLBOY in 7th. Williams looking on for a very good point score here to get their account started for the season, having failed to score either of them in the first 3 races. Remco getting another penalty. He's having a miserable session. Former PSGL F1 champion. Illerbox in 8th, Oogie in 9th, Jamie in 10th. So Oogie and Jamie pretty much in the same place they were before they pitted. So no one got a big undercut or overcut there. Big C in 11th, 10 seconds behind his teammate. And at this stage, 21 laps gone. We've had no retirements. To be fair, it's a fairly hard track to retire on in terms of crashing, because there's so many runoff areas and gravel traps. Have to take an almighty crash. I mean, this corner here, I think, is one of the sections where there is a risk. So XJackLacey then's pitted for a set of Inters and's got his wing fixed finally. He was kind of forced to when he smashed into the wall a few laps ago. Now, interestingly, Greeny is still only a second behind, so it's not as if Skeevan's charged away, and he's losing a lot of time to Cliffy ahead of him. Dropped another 2 seconds that last lap. So 8-second gap between the top 2. Cliffy, as long as he keeps it on the road, has pretty much got this in the bag at this stage. 36 laps, still a lot of race time to go. Josh running in 5th, JD in 6th. Let's see what else is going on. Big C then, fighting with Paudie. A furious battle in the midfield. Let's stick with this. This looks tasty. Paudie will go. Oh, Big C struggling for grip. And now, will Paudie be able to get a run on the 7-time PSGL F1 champion? Ferrari, Toro Rosso go side by side into 5 and 6. And Paudie comfortably around the outside, has better grip. So Big C drops to 12th position. This is not the race he expected after qualifying. I'm sure that's what he'll be thinking right now. And now he's going to be under attack from AMS, so I think I might as well stay here and see what happens. Red Bull versus Ferrari. We get a nice shot from the helicopter as they head over the start-finish straight as lap 22 begins. AMS then, can he close? Yeah, closes in under braking. Big C locks the left front tyre, as saw. So now AMS right on the back of the gearbox of Big C's Ferrari. What AMS think about lunge down the inside with a better grip of the wet tyres? Yes, he does. Dives down the inside and he takes the position. Big C down to 13th. But Big C isn't going to give this up. He's not one to give up, so he's going to try and come back at him down the inside, and AMS goes late on the brakes. Ooh, can AMS hold it? Yes, he does. So well held by AMS. Greeny gets a penalty, and he's being closed in by MaxiLuca. Less than 3 seconds now. So MaxiLuca had that 5-second stop and go penalty, don't forget, but he's still in 4th position, so that's impressive from him. Close battle on track appears to be between, here we are then, Josh in 5th position being closed in by the 2 Williams drivers who are on for a great result, as I mentioned earlier, but they just want to be a bit careful. Look how close JD is now to the back of Josh. We've got yellows in sector 3. I can't check that at the moment. And Remco retires from the race, so we've had a retirement. Remco spinning out of the final corner just as he did in qualifying, and he's called it a day and what has been an utterly miserable race for Remco. He'll be hoping for better things in Monaco next week. So Cliffy leads, Skeevan second. Greeny's dropped to now 4.5 seconds behind Skeevan. And MaxiLuca in 4th. MaxiLuca's closing right on the back of Greeny, so we'll switch back to that. I just want to see whether JD got any closer to Josh. He is very close to him. But let's switch to MaxiLuca. MaxiLuca then looking for his first podium of the season. Look at the grip, struggling for traction. The interrunners really compromised now with the rain falling, and Greeny runs wide, and MaxiLuca will now have a run down to turn 3. What can Greeny do? He goes defensive, but he can't come across, and I think MaxiLuca will take this position. And yes, he moves up into the podium. Positions 4 now. So MaxiLuca having a really strong race. And right behind we've got the 2 Williams going into the combat. HELLBOY takes 6th position from his teammate, little bit of contact. So HELLBOY showing absolutely no mercy to his teammate who made a slight error. And now, will he have a go at Josh? That's the next battle we'll see. And Little Blocks, who earlier on in the race really dropped down the orders, now finds back in the points. So we're going to see more on-track action here in the battle for 5th position. Bit of a train now developing between Josh and these set of cars. So now HELLBOY closing in on the back of this Sauber. HELLBOY's been involved in some controversy in recent races, but oh, Josh, he runs wide onto the curbs, and that spins up his tyres and that compromises his traction. But right behind, Little Blocks is looking to go for a move on JD. Oh, and the 2 Williams touch, and JD forces his teammate wide, and now somehow he's put himself in a position for a move on Josh. And yes, JD takes 5th position, and now Little Block's getting himself involved, and he's now going to launch it down the inside of Josh. Gets poor traction out of turn 3, and that allows HELLBOY to get back in front. Amazing action in the midfield here. JD starting to get away, but Josh really struggling for grip. The rain must be getting harder and harder. More surface water. He's got nothing really to defend with, but just to stick his car in the right place. HELLBOY dropping back. He was ahead of JD and then looking for a move on Josh, and then suddenly finds himself losing out to his teammate again. And now HELLBOY now looking to get past Josh again. He's got to look out for Little Blocks, who is known for an aggressive move when the opportunity arrives, and that's one of the reasons he got that podium at Brazil last week. Look at the pace difference. Getting past Josh's mate to JD, he's already 1.5 seconds clear of him. And look at Little Blocks making another aggressive move down the inside, but this time not as close as he was in the previous lap. And that is allowing the likes of Oogie and Jamie to close gap, but they are probably on the wrong tyre at this stage, because it seems to me the wet weather runners certainly quicker. Oh, and HELLBOY cuts the corner. That wasn't really the quickest route. We're going to stick on board this battle. This is the closest battle, this furious battle for 6th position. HELLBOY and Little Blocks trying to get past. And now HELLBOY looking for a move down the inside into turn 8. Oh, and he has to... Good defending from Josh, but he runs wide and Josh gets a penalty. HELLBOY puts it down the inside. Back end slides out, but he saves it. Now can Little Blocks get past Josh as well? And Louis, I will certainly have a look at Iran and Big C, but I just want to stick with this and see what happens. Oh, and Little Blocks touches the back of the Sauber, nearly risks damaging the wing, and he's almost muscling his way through. Had enough of this Sauber. So can Little Blocks go late on the brakes? He should have the tyre advantage to do so. But Josh, using all experience, sticks it down the inside, and it's like bumper cars. So Josh goes very defensive. He's fighting for his life here. Every point counts, of course. And Little Blocks might be getting a bit, and he goes very late on the brakes, using that tyre end. And Josh once again, and they're sort of making contact. Oh, and they both touched, and well, that was inevitable, really. The way they were fighting each other. Josh is off. Maybe a word to the stewards about that one, but it was very, very competitive racing there. Now Jamie looking to get past Little Blocks out. I will now have a look at Big C. And yes, Iran, they're both on the same compound. So Oogie moves up to 7th thanks to that incident between Little Blocks and Josh. Josh drops out of the points. Fastest lap from MaxiLuca. If that's a sign the track could be, or at least the rain could be easing off, which might get the Interrunners back into contention. Josh damaged his wing. Let's just see. Yeah, looks like he has in that contact with Little Blocks, so that's his race done. Unless there's an almighty drying off the track, forcing everyone to pit again. Boy picks up a 3-second penalty. He's currently in 15th position. So xJackLacey closing in on the back of Iran and Big C. So this could be a tasty little battle in the midfield. 9 well actually, I correct myself, 11 PSGL F1 championships between Big C, Iran and xJackLacey. But let's just see what Paudie is doing. He's closing in on the back of JD. Pits from 5th position. Why is he pitting? Is he coming in for inters? Is the track drying out? Or at least, yeah, the rain seems to be easing off. That'd be the only reason I can see him coming into the pits. So JD drops out of the points. I'm not sure. That could be a mistake. Because he's not going to have many laps, even if the inters are faster, to catch up with all the wet runners. Behind we got xJackLacey now, attacking Iran. Renault versus Force India. So can stick on board with this. XJackLacey, well, he was on the front row, he made a poor start, he then retained the position, then he damaged his wing, and down the inside goes XJackLacey. Can he hold the position? And he does. Moves up to 13th position. It's not where he wanted to be, and Cliffy sets the fast lap. So yes, I think it is the rain is certainly easing off. There's no doubt about it now. Times are starting to come down again. Will it dry out in time? I'm not so sure about that. You know, you can see the rain. It's not as heavy as it was. So those on the Inter tyres may be back in contention if it dries out suddenly to the point where the wets simply don't work anymore. So MaxiLuca may not be out of the race for a podium yet. 10-second gap between the top two. I think Cliffy will be okay not to pit again. But Skeevan, MaxiLuca, Greeny, there's a bit of a question mark on that now. So JD's dropped to 11th position because of that pit stop. He's going to have to get a move on. So AMS right with the car. Less than half a second behind Paudie. And Jamie up ahead, 1.7 seconds behind Little Box. The yellows in sector 2. HELLBOY has retired and he's lost it in sector 2 and he's collected a Sauber. Yeah, Josh, well, what happened there? Josh pitted for a wing. Was it a backmarker incident or something? Because Josh was well down the order. Oh dear, so Williams might not be on for points again. What on earth happened there? That's 3 retirements from the race now, but I'm pretty sure Josh was nowhere near HELLBOY in terms of fighting for position because Josh had to pit for a wing. Wow, that's extraordinary. Well, these wet weather races too often bring up some strange situation. Either that or, well, maybe HELLBOY, because of the rain easing off, maybe he just lost it and collected the Sauber. Unfortunately, we didn't see it. Those on the Inters who have persevered, they're going to have a big advantage now. I mean, look, the rain looks so light now. Can the guys on the wet tyres just keep going? Because look, Jamie is now beginning to close in on Little Blocks. So those on the Inters will have the advantage for the final 5 and 6 laps of this race. We've just seen a lot of incidents. The only person who's kept a cool head, seemingly, are the likes of Cliffy and Skeevan. Fair play to MaxiLuca. He had that 5-second stop and go penalty and still finds himself in 3rd position and made some very good moves on the likes of Greeny. Paudie, oh yeah. But I think the likes of Cliffy, Skeevan and MaxiLuca will probably be okay as long as they can just keep it on the road, because I don't think there's enough laps, even with the advantage the Inters have now, for Greeny to get back, although penalties could still play a role if he gets in touch with them. So let's see then. Paudie now, that's half second. Big C will not be scoring, neither will XJackLacey. We might see a nice little battle between XJackLacey and Big C towards the end of the race. That's best now, fighting with Lordy Boy for a lowly 14th, but this looks like a decent one. That's best trying to go for a move around the outside in turn 8. That's not a normal way to overtake. So can Ashbest, well, he didn't score last week in Brazil and he's not going to score today, so Ashbest, the race winner of Malaysia, his first ever F1 division victory, is going to have to come back again for Monaco to get his season back on track. There's been several big hitters in F1 today who've really not had good races at all. Ashbest now having a little look at Lordy Boy. We're going to move on because XJackLacey now is right on the back of Big C. And we will have a look at MaxiLuca because he's close to within a second. And look at Greeny now, he's now on the pace. Can he get in touch with MaxiLuca? And Big C runs wide, and that's going to allow XJackLacey to take 11th position. Can Big C come back at him? Got better traction out of 7. They're side by side almost as they go for 8, and XJackLacey, it's a poor corner for him. And they're going side by side, they're going to turn 9. These two former PSGL F1 champions going head to head. Big C retakes the place. XJackLacey taps the back of the Ferrari, doesn't want to damage his wing again. And Aaron, as ever, will sniff any opportunity these two make a mistake ahead to gain some positions. JD has overtaken Paudie, incidentally. So Williams, oh, and Aaron out of nowhere has just dived down the inside of XJackLacey. I didn't even see that, Renault. That was an RKO out of nowhere, for those who get the wrestling reference. But Aaron didn't take the place, but that severely compromised XJackLacey's chase of Big C. Yeah, it's not a camera view I've seen before. That sort of T-wing thing. I'm not sure what that's about, really. But now AMS, the wet runners are struggling now. Greeny has just chopped off a massive amount of time to Skeevan. JD moves up to 8th, likes AMS. Paudie are really struggling. And now Jamie, really defensive for Little Blocks, very aggressive. So Little Blocks defending 6th position from Jamie, the reigning champion. It's clear to me the Inter is the best tyre now, if it wasn't obvious before. Jamie has better traction as they move up this straight to turn 2. Late on the brakes. Will they touch? Hand goes up from the Haas driver. Let's go behind JD, see what's going on. Jamie has taken 6th position. Little Blocks doesn't seem to have any traction. Greeny's close to within 1.7 seconds to Skeevan. Down the inside goes JD. And a great move to move up to 7th position. But let's look at Greeny. Skeevan is the 2 wet runners ahead of him. MaxiLuca and Skeevan really struggling. So Greeny could still get on the podium. But he's only got 2 laps to do it. So this is the battle to watch then. Greeny had to struggle for a number of laps when the wet conditions favoured the wet tyre runners, but now the pace is with him. Has got penalties. I think all 3 of these drivers have penalties, and there's Naughty Boy. Naughty Boy's on the ultra softs. Well, he's obviously just experimenting just to see, but I don't think it's too early for that. A lot of standing water, but fair enough, fair play for trying it. Greeny then dives down the inside of Skeevan, and Skeevan has no defence whatsoever. Greeny's up to 3rd, but can he take MaxiLuca? And Cliffy prepares to start the final lap of the race. Naughty Boy is out of the race. And look at Greeny, dives down the inside of MaxiLuca into 6th and takes it through 7. A brilliant move from MaxiLuca, but can he get the gap behind? MaxiLuca and Skeevan going side by side. They're going to have no grip whatsoever. And look at Skeevan. Oh, he saves it. He just saves it. He was sliding all over the place. Can Greeny catch Cliffy in a lap? I don't think so. But he's on for 2nd because he can just get a massive gap even with the penalties, but he just can't afford to get any more. Anything else going on? JD right on the back of Jamie. Final lap of this thrilling PSGL F1 Austrian Grand Prix. Let's see then. Can JD Williams on for their first points of the season, which would be a great achievement for them. Slams on the brakes. We'll have to, let's see, where is Cliffy? He's in sector 2, so we can go back to this battle between Jamie and the Williams of JD. XJackLacey gets a 3-second time penalty. And around the outside from JD, they're both on the same tyres, and Jamie nudges him off, gets the elbows out. Cliffy then, through the penultimate corner. And after his brilliant win last week in Brazil, which came because of a penalty, there's no doubt about it today. Cliffy takes the Austrian Grand Prix victory in PSGL F1. Greeny will cross the line in 2nd place, I believe. But let's check the penalties. MaxiLuca takes 3rd. Oogie in 4th. Skeevan has run out of fuel. Skeevan has run out of fuel. So Oogie will take 4th position, and Skeevan is going to drop right out of the points. Possibly. Oh, dearie me. He's got it all wrong. The fuel. Will he lose any more positions? Jamie crosses the line in 5th, 6th. Oh, look at this! Right in the last corner. Skeevan loose, but look at all this battling over the line. Positions changing left, right, and centre. Big C up to 7th, Little Box in 8th, AMS in 9th. Iran takes the final championship point. Skeevan just crosses the line. He started the lap in 4th place and he's dropped to 14th. Oh, heaven knows what he feels like right now. And Joel will be the final finisher. Haven't really talked about him. And Joel will cross the line to be our final finisher. Oh, what the heck? An AI car just wiped out Joel and that's it. Okay, well, that was a bit of a Jolyon Palmer style incident there. That's the kind of luck it was. Woo! Well, that was a dramatic race, especially the last laps. But there was so much action in that race. I did need Louis' help today, but I got through it. So then, Cliffy takes his 2nd victory in a row. And a double podium for Mercedes today. So, excellent haul of points for them. And Greeny, it didn't look like the strategy was correct for him, but it came back to him and he got 2nd place. And if there'd been a few more laps, who knows? Greeny could have taken the victory here. But big congratulations to Cliffy on back-to-back victories, and I believe he will take the lead of the PSGL F1 Championship. So here we go then. Cliffy takes the victory. Greeny in 2nd. MaxiLuca in 3rd. His 1st podium of the season. So well done to him. And Oogie in 4th. Jamie in 5th. JD in 6th. Big C in 7th. Lil Box in 8th. AMS in 9th. And Iran in 10th. And some of those positions all came down to the final corner. And then Paudie in 11th, Ashbest in 12th. And the rest, xJackLacey, Skeevan, oh, my heart bleeds for him. Being in 4th and then half a lap to go, then you lose that many places. He would have lost probably a few places anyway because of penalties, but to lose that many places, unbelievable. And then Joel's car got wiped out before he even crossed the line. So we're going to do the podium interviews now. Hope you all enjoyed that race. That was terrific. Who knows what the heck Monaco is going to be like next week. I dare say there may be a few more retirements in that one. So we're just going to wait for the lobby to load up and then we will invite the podium. Right, so I need to get Cliffy. So bear with me guys. Just going to invite them in. Greeny. So let me know in the chat who your driver of the day is. Alright, bear with me folks. Right, we've got Cliffy, MaxiLuca, just waiting on Greeny. Right then, well, as we wait for Greeny, we can certainly start this.
Ah, so, I'm here.
Good stuff. So everyone is here. So here is our podium for tonight's PSGL F1 Austrian Grand Prix. First, we're going to congratulate Cliffy on his back-to-back victories after victory in Brazil and victory in Austria tonight. Initial thoughts on your race, Cliffy? It was certainly frenetic at the start.
Yeah, I mean, at the start, main aim is to always keep your front wing clean into turn 1. I noticed that the guys ahead would brake a lot earlier than me, down into the hairpin at turn 2, so I thought I took that as my sort of overtaking point, and I got a few good overtakes there, so just when I got the lead, just sort of saved the tyres a bit, and I knew it was going to be changeable conditions, so I just sort of sat back a little bit, saved the tyres, and when it was time to change, I changed and done it well.
Yes, well, you have taken the lead of the PSGL F1 Championship for the time being, so that must be a good feeling for you.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, aim coming into place was just try and keep with Jack, but obviously in the dry he was unstoppable, so I thought I'd at least concede a more bigger gap tonight, but to get the lead off Jack is a good feeling.
Yes, indeed. And now, turn the attention to Greeny. You certainly had a race of two halves. The strategy went against you and then came back for you. Your heart must have been running fast through those final laps where you were catching the wet runners in front.
Yeah, I sort of feel a bit robbed. It's a great win by Cliffy, but the thing said there was 2 slots of light rain at the end, so that sort of said to me it was going to become inters pretty quickly after. So that was a bit annoying as well. With the switch for the lead with Cliffy, Jack went for a bit of a dive and we got caught. I mean, for some reason at the very start there was like, even though I was second, there was no brake marker boards going into turn 2, hairpin. So obviously when you have no racing line, you know, you're a bit like, I don't know how to say, you're a bit tentative on the brakes. You know, you don't want to go too deep, not knowing. So obviously I was losing time there. Jack tried to take an opportunity. Really off-putting. I think if Jack not had gone for it, I don't think Cliffy would have got past, because eventually I found my feet and I started to peg Cliffy and even start to reduce the gap. But yeah, the inters, I think it was well worth the. I think it was well worth it. I think on the wets it would have been pretty close for the lead, but I thought at the time it'd be inters, and yeah, I'm fairly happy with the P2. Wished it was a win though, to be honest.
Yeah, well, it's your first podium since Belgium last season, so certainly it's something to build on, isn't it?
Yeah, deja vu with Cliffy winning again. Me coming runner-up.
Yeah, well, I'm sure your time will come at some point, Greeny. It was a very good performance. And MaxiLuca, it's been a long wait for you. You won the Bahrain Grand Prix at the first race of last season, but now finally you're back on the podium, and I would say well deserved. So you had that 5-second stop and go penalty. What exactly happened to get that?
Big C, I don't know what happened to him at the hairpin. He got like spun, and then everyone like crashed into him, and like I had nowhere to go, so I just fell on the outside, and they were like stuck. So I don't know. I might get the penalty taken off and see if I can maybe get P2, but I have to see.
Yeah.
Wait, when was it? Did you serve the penalty, Maxi?
Oh yeah, does it count it?
Yeah, no,
Oh,
you can't get it removed, because once you've
Does it, like,
served it, they
count?
can't take it off.
Yeah.
Because Big C had it in Brazil with me, spinning off.
Okay, cheers, Jeff.
So, but third place, despite that, must be really happy with that.
Yeah, I'm really happy because it was a long wait before I got my first points in Brazil, and like 11 races, and yeah, to get a podium, I'm over the moon. But it was a bit annoying, you know, let this 1-2 slip on like the second to last lap, but I'm very happy with third.
Yes, you had quite the battle with Skeevan for most of the second half of the race, but did you see what happened to him where he lost fuel on the last lap?
No, he was lagging a lot. Like,
Yeah.
in the second stint, he was like stuck at turn 1 with no front wing, and just like lagged to go half the track. So I don't know, it was a bit weird.
Right. Well, Austria is gone, and next week, of course, is the glitz and glamour of Monaco, which is going to be the hardest race of the season to avoid mistakes. So, Cliffy, your thoughts on Monaco next week? Is it a track that you relish, or is it one that you fear?
Being on wheel, I feel like I've got an advantage already. So I'm going to practice Monaco, I think, a lot, because Monaco's smooth when your race is over. So I definitely don't want to be doing that. So yeah, I'm going to be practicing that a lot.
And what are your thoughts on Monaco, Greeny?
On a pad, it's going to be very difficult, but I really relish the challenge of the track. So on last game, I felt it was a pretty strong track for me on the pad, but I don't know about this game. But I expect Cliffy, Big C to go up there, even Maxi, but the race is a long one. If I can keep my nose intact, I think a top 5 certainly for the taking.
And MaxiLuca, is Monaco a race you've had positive experiences at in the past?
Yeah, it's my best track. It's my best track on the game.
Wow.
Yeah,
But bold stuff and said. So lights a flag victory for you then next week. Well, we shall see. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we've had a brilliant Austrian Grand Prix. For those drivers who have finished, I'd certainly recommend you re-watch the stream because there was so much going on. And we will see you next week for the Monaco Grand Prix. And thanks very much for watching, everybody, and see you next time.